Live emergency broadcast. Could be Infowars' last show. Oh, more legal stuff.
Now, really, front and center, Israel's newspapers are like, we're the superpower. We control America. What happened to Israel? Where does this go?
I mean, the only thing I could really kind of justify from that question that you asked, Myron, is specifically that I think this is for a great reset. I think this is to collapse the dollar, to bring in a crypto central bank digital currency. If you look at Trump's first administration, this is where they did, the 2 weeks to slow the spread. A very similar type of practice, globalist type of initiative that they wanted to
this war,
warming.
the Iran war is
collapse the dollar. No, that's what they're trying to avoid at all cost. But the Great Reset, it's what they're trying to do when the dollar collapses. The dollar collapse, that they're trying to delay as long as possible.
COVID 2.0.
Exactly. And then this is going to lead to higher gas prices, people not traveling. The UK government is warning about food prices and also food insecurity that even the United Kingdom is going to be dealing with right now. Vladimir Putin just released a statement warning Trump of extremely dire consequences if Israel and America start bombing Iran once again. So it's pretty clear that Israel has a lot of sphere of influence here. The New York Times and even Benny Johnson reported how a lot of the key cabinet members in Trump's administration weren't buying what Bibi was selling. Now, why did Trump decide to still do this? There could be a greater conspiracy, just like there was under COVID, that created these horrible situations. It was one of the largest transfers of wealth in recorded human history. And when we look at the impacts of this war and it prolonging,
there might be a greater conspiracy, but it does involve Trump. If they could co-opt Trump, they would have done it back in 2016. They wouldn't have been indicting him on all these felony charges if they had controlled Trump and could involve him in these type of conspiracies. So no, Trump is involved. He was tricked into the Iran war, most likely.
It's not just 4 weeks. We're what? This is like week 9 that we're into it. It's going to be a perpetual, forever war that's going to, of course, really hit.
Yeah, I mean, if they were planning on destroying him, this Iran war is the perfect way that they succeeded. It's a great way for the deep state to take him out, Trump out.
Under the U.S. dollar, and I think this is when they're going to do their great reset, and they're going to bring in a central bank digital currency.
So when Tucker and I and others put major pressure on Trump, he attacked us when he said no nuclear weapons, when he was saying I'm destroying one day, clear nuclear weapons. The Israelis were calling for that. Does he listen to us? Should we put pressure on him, or what do we do about Trump?
We have to put pressure on him. I think that
digital currency, that's a pipe dream. They'll never get it implemented. Same thing with digital ID online. Yes, they'd want that. A lot of stuff deep state wants. It was deep state wants Russia to collapse. So that they can loot the country. They wanted Iran to collapse. Deep state wants a lot of things.
That's the only thing that he's going to respond to is, luckily, I think Charlie put a good amount of, and Steve Bannon, I know a couple other guys put pressure on him the first time with like, look, if you're going to go ahead and strike Iran, don't do it. And I think that's why he did a limited strike with Operation Midnight Hammer. But this time around, I think he was just high off the win with Venezuela and was like, you know what, I could do it again in Iran.
Yes, high off the win with Venezuela. Also tricked into thinking Iran was trying to kill him, and this was a chance to get Ayatollah before the Ayatollah could get him. Then you have Netanyahu, and just honestly has a lot of influence because of all the campaign contributions. Israeli lobby has a lot of access. He pits the war, and finally, it's just Trump being an idiot on international politics and relations, and not understanding that Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz. I think that is a combination of all those factors led us into this absurd war.
And that just didn't turn out well. And we know that Netanyahu, the last time he came and visited, he took the back door. He didn't go in. They didn't do the whole press run like usual. The meeting went longer than expected. He ran out the thing, and I think he presented Trump with 2 plans. Look, we're going to attack them with or without you, but if you guys do come with us, it's going to be a lot better. You're going to be able to put your name on this, and you're going to be able to want to say you finally took out the Iranian regime.
And it's about to fall in 4 days and all the rest of it.
Exactly. And they sold him the dream, and it didn't work. And I'm just shocked that he didn't listen to his intelligence community. He listened to the Israeli intelligence as well. And we all know the Israelis always oversell.
If that's true, Trump would be pissed, though. If that's true, right, and Trump was lied to, he would be pissed off at Bibi.
But he never wants to admit he's wrong.
Yes, exactly. He could be furious with Netanyahu for basically destroying his political career, but and he will be. I think he will eventually be when he's forced to admit defeat in Iran. Then he will be angry. But right now, as long as he's saying we're winning this war, we're winning bigly, how can he beg man at Netanyahu over a war he's winning? Answer me that. If we're winning so badly in Iran, why would Trump be mad with Netanyahu? So as long as he has that narrative that we're winning, he can't publicly, say anything bad at Netanyahu.
So even when Rubio said, hey, Israel did this to get us into it, to cover his ass, Trump goes, no, it's me. I'm in charge.
And then he said Hegseth after.
We really need to get off this escalation because I think the economy can't handle more, personally. This is where I really do see everything kind of...
The problem is we have another 2-3 months of economic impact coming to the United States, even if they miraculously came to agreement right now and opened the Strait of Hormuz. It takes time for those tankers to move. Oil prices are not coming down immediately. And shut-in production in the Gulf takes time to be brought back online. It's going to be a rough summer, even if everything works out miraculously today. But I see zero chance of that happening. So, yeah, I think even with all the redistricting Republicans are doing, even if they pass the SAFE Act, that just might limit the losses. But I think Republicans are losing Congress, and Trump is to blame. He's one. It's not like this is the biggest issue. Like $6 gas already in California.
Crescendoing,
US debt
everything
tops
becoming more
100%
expensive,
of
food
GDP.
shortages.
What's that mean, Luke? When U.S. debt tops 100% of GDP, we're banana republic right now.
Yeah, we're literally paying more on debt than we are even collecting money. Why are we even collecting money when the money printers are just going burr? And if you want to deal with the war machine, you got to deal with the...
And the way that all that money printing is working without causing inflation is all the cash that's being smuggled out of the country by drug trafficking and like Somali fraud operations where they smuggle all that cash out. That's what U.S. prints $1 billion and that $1 billion disappears overseas. No inflation. And you know what we're doing under the Trump administration? We're cracking down on that Somali fraud, on the outflows of dollars. But the inflows coming back from the rest of the world, that's still happening. So the more successful Trump is at shutting down the Somali fraud and drug trafficking, that's going to create inflationary pressures too.
Money printing machine. So they're really at the top of the helm here. They're really the ones calling the shots here. And I think Trump sees an opportunity to potentially usher in this great reset that then he could create these long-standing changes that he could put his name on, that he could create that would, of course, be with us for the foreseeable future.
The Iran war is more unpopular than the Vietnam War. And we're just getting started with the economic pain from that war. So it's going to be the most unpopular war in history of the United States.
Bringing in also this kind of new technocratic AI era, which he's been laying out the red carpet for, which is also kind of terrifying with his digital identification system and his facial recognition systems.
So what do we do? We got Democrats over here that we know are horrible. We got Trump doing all this. What do we do?
We have to speak out. We cannot be silent in the face of all of this. We have to do this respectfully.
We break with Trump and try as much as we can to limit the damage to Republicans in the midterm. But it requires turning on Trump and calling him out now rather than later.
Have to do this in a way where we are courageous and not afraid of the attacks and the libels that happen. There's a whole operation going on right now trying to silence anyone who's not for this war. We have to continue.
Yeah, by both the Trump administration and the deep state. They're cooperating on this one particular issue of silencing dissent about this war. It's Trump aligned perfectly with the deep state in this instance.
To speak out, the audience has to support all the people that are brave enough to do so. At the same time, we have to make plans for, I think, an initial collapse here.
Yeah, we're 62 days into this war, Myron. What's going to happen?
Well, I hope it doesn't get to the nuclear position. I think we've already, destroyed our diplomatic ties in the Gulf after they invested $1 trillion in us, by the way.
Alex Jones doesn't talk about the collapse of the dollar much, does he? They mentioned it earlier, but it wasn't even Alex Jones. I don't watch a lot of Alex Jones, so I don't know.
we're NATO is a joke anyway, but obviously we made ourselves look bad with our European partners. We've isolated ourselves alongside the Israelis, and
that's Israel's plan. Is
because they're
rope
already
in the real
ostracized.
superpower, get us full behind them, get us surrounded like they are, and just commit the Jews in America by controlling us to full war. It's total cuckoo town.
It's absolutely nuts, man. And I
town.
just don't see how we're gonna get out of this. We're gonna have to make some serious concessions to end this war, because they're lying in the media as well, saying like, oh yeah.
No, the thing about conspiracy theories is there's always wild, out of the left field ones that's floating around out there, purposely or unintentionally, and you got I wouldn't believe that. Sure, there's some people that want a political reset, like the Great Reset, but those, for example, are the same global elites in Europe that want Ukraine to win the war. They want lots of things, but they can't get what they want. It's wishful thinking.
Yeah, Iran wants to negotiate. No, they don't. We're the ones that want to negotiate.
Because their backs against the wall.
They wanted vaccine passports, and that didn't go anywhere.
All they could do is fight. They're winning now with Strait of Hormuz by attrition.
Yes, and they got more drones. They have more ballistic missiles. Russia supporting them through the Caspian Sea. I love how no one from Fox News ever wants to admit that the blockade isn't doing anything when it comes to the Caspian Sea. We have no.
Well, that's it. And Trump constantly, we won, we didn't win, regime change.
Yeah,
I don't want the strait. I need the strait. He wants to send ground troops in, Luke.
I mean, it would be a disaster. This is what the Iranians have been calling for a very long time. They saw what happened to Saddam Hussein, and they learned since 2003, and they made battle plans. They learned how to decentralize their leadership. Some people say it's a little bit too decentralized right now, but they've been preparing. They understood that this war was coming for a very long time, and we're dealing with an enemy that, of course, in just the last 7 days, went out to Russia, went out to China. So this is kind of creating a larger kind of proxy conflict, which is really concerning, as of course this also involves Ukraine. Soon it could also potentially involve Taiwan here. And then really it's just an outright kind of disaster that we're being kind of slow crawling towards, that I think we should.
Yeah, there's three vectors for escalation in the world right now. One, there's what's going on in Europe, with Europe provoking Russia, and Russia might expand the war to the Baltic states. There's in the Middle East, there's the danger of Trump escalating things with regard to Iran. And finally, three, there's the danger that China sends ships to escort tankers through the U.S. Blockade. And you could have China dragged into the war if the United States tries to stop those Chinese tankers with their destroyer escorts.
Should be doing everything we can to try to avoid as much
and they've
as we
proven
can.
That we can't. Yeah. They've proven we can't protect our allies. That's another problem.
Exactly. The governments are like, why does Israel get all the missiles? UAE is getting double the missile attacks. Sorry, no missiles for you.
Yeah. And then I mean, right after
interceptor missiles.
Yeah, the interceptors are pretty much gone now in the Gulf. I know Israel's obviously running into emergency lows.
And Iran doesn't blow. They say we're ready to launch biggest attacks ever.
Yeah. I mean, they have thousands of missiles, man. They have thousands. They've been stockpiling them forever, just like Luke said. They watched Saddam Hussein get toppled, and they were like, this isn't going to happen to us. We're going to have underground cities that these bunker busters can't destroy. And even if they destroy one missile city, we have hundreds more to go. And they launch it from all over the place. And Iran's a huge country, 90 million people, twice the size of Iraq, if not bigger, the size of Western Europe. This is a very formidable enemy, and now they're getting intelligence also from the Chinese and the Russians. That's why the rockets are so accurate. And they've been destroying Israel. Israel will not admit it, but they've hit so many strategic
thousands of arrests in the UAE and all over.
Yes.
And in Israel, if you report on it.
Yes. They have a huge censorship ban right now, especially in Israel.
Yeah, across the Gulf and Israel. They don't want to admit how badly they've been hit.
If you take video or photo of what's going on, because they don't want the Iranians to be able to see it and be able to refine the rocket coordinates and be able to hit them harder. But the Russians and the Chinese are feeding them all this intel.
Well, look at the two.
Iranians have access to satellite image. The censorship is mostly for public consumption because public doesn't have access to those satellites.
They're putting missiles, 2,000-pound bombs right in the center.
Yeah. They're all gone. They're all gone.
Luke, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I know people in the Middle East that were just sharing private messages with their brothers and sisters, and then police literally came on in and stopped them and says, "What are you doing here?" Yeah,
that's true. All across the Gulf,
some of the damage here.
They're putting a serious trouble in the Gulf.
There's a reason we got rid of a lot of the satellite imagery. If you look at the war in Ukraine, we get up-to-date details about what's happening, the battles that are being fought there. We got none of that during this Iran war.
Yeah, no, we get
and
all
it's
the footage from
probably
Ukraine.
because the damage
Nothing
is
on this.
far bigger.
Yeah.
Well, even USA Today and CNN and ABC.
Ukraine is too big. Ukraine is huge with the front line, and they have internet access. They need it because of drones and stuff. And so it's impossible to stop videos from coming out. Also, a lot of the videos published are Russian published videos of Russian drones going in and striking Ukrainian soldiers, and Ukraine does the same. And they publish that for propaganda purposes, but that's what mappers use to determine where the front line is. And so because both sides are right next to each other using FPV drones, there's a huge amount of information about what's going on the front line. This Iran war, there's no front line like that, so a lot less information.
News and even all admitted last week or 2 weeks. Oh, the damage is way worse.
Yeah, and it took them 2 months to finally admit it. Like, I knew they destroyed the bases on like day 2, but like, now they're finally saying, yeah, actually these bases are destroyed. We can't go back, and there's no way the Gulf states are gonna let us rebuild these military bases, because it's like, we got attacked because of you guys. Like, the entire Gulf, LNG gone, military bases gone. They can't get their oil out, can't get their energy out. Tourism is down significantly. Real estate prices have plummeted in the UAE.
Tourism is down significantly. I would have thought tourism has collapsed entirely in the Gulf.
The UAE 2 weeks ago asked for a bailout. Then they leave OPEC. What's happening?
This is the beginning of well, number one, they're trying to diversify away from just oil. They're trying to get more into AI. They want to invest more in AI, and also think that this is the beginning of the end for the petrodollar. Which is horrible, because just like Luke was saying before, we're printing money on that. The only reason we're able to print money the way that we do is because the petrodollar reserve.
Petrodollar, yes, that's one part. The other part is the Iran-Contra aspect, the dollarization of the world. Like, all these places that we overthrew, like Libya, Syria, Iraq, they use the dollar as their currency, and they don't have their own currencies. So when we print money, a lot of it ends up there. It's more spread out. It's what allows us to print so much money without huge inflation here in the United States, because 95% of the actual dollars that exist, printed dollars, are outside the United States. And that petrodollar helps reinforce that. But it's only one pillar. The other pillar is the actual outflows, like the Somali fraud. It smuggles billions of dollars abroad that are then used in all these places, failed states like Libya, Somalia, etc.
Currency status.
Yeah, I want to explain things. 2 months ago when this started, I said on that March 1st show, I said, it's a mistake. It's going to fail. The intelligence community's right. I've studied it myself. But I hope it works out of just pure self-preservation evil. I was honest with the audience. Because I said, even though I'm against this, it's going to fail, but I wish it would succeed, because where it leads. Here we are 2 months later, it's all happening. And I'm just like, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because we can all sit around and say, we're against this or that. Folks, if we lose the dollar, we are in road. Explain what that would look like.
It would be, so there's 4.
Yes, if we lose the dollar. But what Alex Jones doesn't understand is it's inevitable. The dollar is a Ponzi scheme. You can delay its collapse at best, but you can't stop it. It's go over all different reasons. They take a long video, but like one of them is it requires ever greater amounts of drug trafficking and Somali fraud, ever greater outflows of U.S. dollars out of the United States to the rest of the world to prevent it from collapsing. 2, you have the consequence of keeping the dollar artificially high, which is what it is that the United States deindustrializes and our industry gets outsourced. And that undermines our military. And our military is key to keeping the rest of the world dollarized. Like during the Iraq War, we had 5 aircraft carriers around Iraq. During this Iran war, even at most we had 2 most of the time, but then for a brief moment we're having 3 aircraft carriers in the region. But that's the most we can manage. Trump wants them more, but he can't. Our military capacity, it's still great, still the strongest, is a shadow of what it once was. And so our ability to bully countries around the world and cause regime change is is decreasing. And then you have what's going on in the banking sector, which has they've every trick they can to prop up failing banks they've already done. There's nothing left. And next financial crisis, I don't think they can manage it. It could be the last one. Devastating impact. So it's the dollar, the financial system, it's a Ponzi scheme that's doomed to collapse. So that's the one thing that Alex Jones doesn't understand. He thinks it's something that might actually be prevented.
Four things that the United States is based on: military power, SWIFT, the petrodollar, and reserve currency status. The petrodollar and reserve currency status is currently being challenged right now. And obviously our military power got checked a little bit because it's proven that we can't protect our allies like we claim. And then SWIFT, well, all these countries are finding ways to get around SWIFT, whether it's through cryptocurrency, like they have with the toll booth system that they've had with the freighter ships. I know the Chinese have their own system that they use to do transactions. So like
that which doesn't kill you
are
makes you
getting
stronger.
challenged. Yeah, these 4 pillars are getting challenged. So, you know, if we lose reserve currency status, put it this way, we are going to be in a very bad situation.
And if Trump would have just done,
I can explain that for people to understand. Most countries in the world, their service sector is proportional to their producing sector. Producing sector is like farms, factories, mines, anything that produces something of value. Service sector services the producing sector. But in the United States, we basically outsourced a huge part of our producing sector. Right now, we have a tiny producing sector compared to the rest of the economy and a huge service sector. And that works because we borrow money from abroad, as paid out through Social Security, whatever. And so we have an outside service sector. When the dollar collapses, our service sector will need to shrink down till it's a correct size proportional to our producing sector, which means like 2/3 of our service sector is going to go up in smoke. That's how bad it will be, because it's just everything will be radically more expensive. It'll be the biggest collapse the world has ever seen financially, economically, because this is an 80-year Ponzi scheme collapse in the making. And there's no precedent. There's no, oh, we can look at this happened this time in history. No, there's nothing like that. It's going to be something out of, it's probably the worst financial crisis and economic collapse the world has ever seen and will ever see. And that is what happens when the dollar collapses.
And 20 trillion getting invested. He was winning the trade war. If he wouldn't have done this, we would have won
Far worse than the Great Depression, unfortunately.
by soft
And, you know,
power.
this is also crazy, Alex. The Brits lost reserve currency status a big part of it was the Suez Canal crisis. We have something very similar.
Yeah, they
Another
had a
waterway.
period century in World War I, and then by World War II, they were done.
Yeah, yeah, and
Most
I
people
see.
don't realize how
You're right.
serious a lot of this
Explain
is.
that, though.
Like,
Go back to Luke. You're
Yes, but even when the British lost their reserve status, like most of the world didn't have reserves, nowhere near amount of reserves like in the dollar that is today. It compared, it's just incomparable to what it is today. There wasn't the internet, there wasn't all this fast communication, so it was, yeah, it was bad for Britain, but they didn't even experience a depression.
right. I forgot the whole Suez Canal. I'm pulling up my mind.
That was the beginning.
They
of the
lost it
Franklin.
of the same crap.
Exactly.
Sorry, Luke, go ahead and tell the story in a minute. Go ahead.
no. I've tried.
Besides, back then they were still on the gold standard, and so that limited the impact of Britain losing its empire.
Traveled to Venezuela during their kind of currency collapse. I went to Zimbabwe, did whole documentaries about what people went through when their currency collapsed. I went to India when they did the cash reset there. Utter pandemonium. People aren't ready for a lot of this stuff.
No,
a lot of us are dependent. We have it very luxuriously compared to the rest of the world here. But I saw collapses right in front of my face. I saw what people went through in places like Venezuela, and it is more real than you could ever expect. If you want to see the roadmap of what's going to be happening here, check out the kind of deep down the rabbit hole documentaries I did about just how absolutely crazy and wild things were in those other places that went through those same type of scenarios. I mean, again, same thing happened during the booming 20s, right? Same thing happened in Germany during the 19th.
Weimar Republic is the closest example to what will happen in the United States, the hyperinflation they experienced there. And even then, it won't be as bad. We've reached an extreme in the United States that even the Weimar Republic couldn't have reached.
30s. We have to understand we're there, and that's why I've been saying prepare accordingly.
You're absolutely right, Luke. Myron Gaines.
Yeah, no, I mean, if we lose reserve currency status, I mean, look, one of the things that we're able to enjoy is low debt. You know what I mean? We're able to borrow money at low debt, et cetera.
That's the sick part is I hate the American empire, but I wanted Trump to fix it, make it peaceful. We need it. So it's like this, I'm fighting it because I know it goes bad, but then I'm also like cut my own dick off.
No, I mean, look, you know, at the end of the day, we're all Americans. We're American patriots. We love this country, want this country to win. But sometimes we have to have very difficult conversations. Like, we're repeating what the Brits did with the Suez Canal crisis, almost an identical situation. And
yes, Iran is America's Suez moment. It's the end of the U.S. empire.
Yeah, explain that. I forgot that. You're right.
So the Suez Canal crisis, you look at Egypt.
Explain how the British Empire died. This is key.
Yeah, so what ended up happening was, I think it was England, France, and Israel basically tried to attack Egypt and take over the Suez Canal, another waterway that's very important and critical. And they ended up losing. And, you know, the United States kind of came in and told them, hey, you guys got to get out of here. They ran like scalded dogs. And this was the beginning of the decline for the great British Empire. And I see something.
And the rise of the American empire.
And the rise of the American empire.
By being smart.
By being intelligent. And the other thing, too, is that, you know, Robert Pape talked about this, and I agree with him. This war is going to make Iran like the fourth world power, because all they got to do is hold on. The barrier for
exactly all the Israeli newspapers say we're the new superpower.
Thing is, yes, it will. Iran will be greatly ascended coming out of this, but control over the Strait of Hormuz is a short-term thing. In that, the moment it happens, that's the way the war ends. Like with Iran controlling the strait, doing a toll. Immediately, every Gulf state will start building pipelines. So we go here. All these Gulf states here, the oil producing is around the Gulf. Well, and right now, all of it goes out and goes through the Strait of Hormuz. Well, if Iran starts charging a toll here, they'll do what Saudi Arabia has already done, where it's one pipeline across. There'll be pipelines going across here enough to bring all the oil. And you'll basically only oil going through the Strait of Hormuz will be Iranian oil. And so the toll, it will take 2 or 3 years for that to happen. So the toll Iran could charge, that's a 2 or 3 year thing. After that, the Gulf states will use pipelines to bypass the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran won't be able to make a fortune off that anymore.
Control America, they brag.
Yeah, they do.
No, it's the opposite.
Yeah. All the Iranians have to do is hold on. We have to do a regime change.
Just like George Washington. 6-year war, loses the first 5, wins the last year. You just got to win by attrition.
That's what it is.
Which is basic war study. This is the Pentagon told Trump.
Yeah, that's what kills me is that they literally told him, don't do this is a bad idea, and he still did it anyway. He relied on Israeli intelligence.
Putin apparently called Trump and warned him not to restart the Iran war or all hell would break loose. So that happened, and it seems like Trump isn't listening. And he's in a losing position. Every day straits remain closed, more economic damage. And his only 2 choices, surrender to the Iranians, basically, or escalate, are terrible. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes right now because there's nothing I could do. There's no magical solution to this. Just like Alex Jones talking about the dollar, how to prevent the collapse. No, there is no way. When Trump bombed Supreme Leader, he'd already gone off a cliff. There's no saving him. Same thing for the dollar. It's already there. There's nothing that can save the dollar.
Over his own intelligence agency.
And by the way, not defending the Israelis, the fact, the Mossad chief and the Mossad deputy, who's the new head, met with...
And to further explain why the dollar is doomed, our debt. We're getting very close to a debt spiral where inflation is going to head up because of this Iran war or whatever. It's going to push up interest rates, and the United States owes so much money and has to pay so much in interest. It's going to be a debt spiral. And you have at the same time Trump pushing up spending because of the military, because of this war. It gets to the point where there is absolutely no paying it off. The only thing left is for an inflation spiral as Fed prints money to fund the deficit.
What Trump a week before and said,
but that it won't be. It'll be a gradual spiral. Like it'll spiral up first for a few years, inflation going higher towards 20%. Then at some point after it breaches 20%, there'll be a final loss of trust in the dollar, and there'll be a total collapse. But it's not going to happen instantly. Again, Iraq uses the dollar. All these countries, if you're talking about places that use the dollar, Iraq uses the dollar, Syria uses the dollar, Sudan uses the dollar, Somalia uses the dollar down here. All these countries will be destabilized, just use the dollar as their currencies. Afghanistan, I haven't checked on them, but they used to use the dollar. They probably still do. I don't know if they've had time to set up their own currency since they formed their own government. But that means that when the inflation spiral starts going up, you're still going to have money outflows to these places. It's going to slow the whole process down. But what's going to happen is as the dollar loses value faster and faster, as inflation goes up in double digits, these places will start looking for something other than the dollar. They'll start de-dollarizing. And that'll accelerate the loss of value of the dollar. It becomes... There's no way to save the dollar at this point.
Disregard, we're going to win 4 days. Even the IDF sent a memo to Trump saying it's not true. Even the Israeli Defense Forces said don't do it.
You know, and Tulsi Gabbard even said,
Did you know that? I just learned about it a few days ago.
I did not know
That's
that.
in the Israeli news. They said, don't do it. Well, even they didn't want to bite off too much they could chew.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for Bibi, he just needs to be in perpetual war, you know, to be able to maintain, you know, his prime minister status so he doesn't have to go to jail. But even Tulsi Gabbard said, look, they're not building a nuclear bomb. They have the fatwa, you know, and the whole enrichment thing. Well, they have 60% enriched uranium. Yeah, that's because we pulled out of the JCPOA. That was a negotiating chip.
But my issue is this. Even Iran said a month ago, we can build a bomb in a week. This delivery system. They're allowed to have it. It's all over the place. So this excuse, oh, you can make a nuke to blow you up. It's a fraud.
Yeah.
I hope Iran actually, I know they're more.
Well, they'll have Israel in check.
They don't launch half the attacks of Israel. They're not 10% crazy. I'm like, we don't have a war with North Korea. They got a nuke. I'm actually like, hand them all out because that creates mutual assured destruction. It stops.
It does. It actually, yeah, it lowers aggression, actually. And if Iran had a bomb.
Yeah, well, you got to fight like somebody's going to die when you do this, and you're going to die.
Iran had a bomb, this whole crisis wouldn't have started. The Hormuz Straits would still be open.
I do. You're like, oh, wait.
Think twice, yeah. Well, it's
like if you're bigger guy than me, you sure kick my ass. But if you broke my jaw, but then I blew up and killed you, if I was explosive,
I would never hit you.
You would never hit me.
I would never, exactly.
Like if I'm a hand grenade, you could kill me, but would you pull the pin?
No,
because you died.
Exactly, and that's very important because look, people might say, oh, we can't have these crazy mullahs with a nuclear bomb, whatever. I would argue the Israelis are crazier, and they have an elite.
We watched a video the other day about what Israel wants. It has the Greater Israel Plan, and it wants to seize land around it. It's already seized land in Syria. It's trying to seize land in Lebanon, and it wants to be able to seize land. But the problem when it does that is that the people that you're seizing land from usually fight back for some reason. And if they have a state like Iran that supports them, provides some weapons and whatever, they fight back a lot more efficiently. That they actually have the ability to put in some severe resistance, like Hezbollah in Lebanon. And they've taken out all the other countries that aren't U.S. puppets, that don't have U.S. bases. And Iran's the last one. If they take Iran out, they figure, okay, now we can just seize all the land we want and there's no one to stop us. And that's why Israel wants either regime change or regime collapse in Iran.
Legal.
I agree. They're the ones willing to run around. Listen.
And their nuclear program is illegal.
I'm not made a big drama queen thing out.
And the point I was going to make is that if Iran had a nuclear weapon, then Israel's goal of regime change or regime collapse in Iran it goes up in smoke because no one wants a failed regime that has nuclear weapons. What do you do if a country collapses and they have nukes? It becomes a nightmare. So like the United States and the rest of the world would have big incentive in preventing any type of regime collapse in Iran. And it also limits the ability of Israel to strike directly and go in and just bomb stuff like they've done in the past, because Iran now has nukes.
But since I started really calling on Israel, which I did before reasonably, I didn't like the Nazis, so we were run by them, so that's why they're doing it. The threats are off the chain. I mean, nasty stuff behind the scenes. Little, thingies where they're really watching. They're in all my stuff now. It's like, they're like, oh, you think I'm going to roll over now? Like, you're making me more mad.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Have you been fucked with for dealing with Israel?
Oh, yeah. Bad.
But let me guess, you didn't make you roll over.
No, never.
So why do they keep doing it then? Like what? Like I was talking to the CIA guys, so many of them on the air, former section chiefs, you name it, like Kiriakou and others, and they could get them to all answer questions, being nice, giving them money, and the CIA said, no, we're talking to the Israelis now. We're just going to torture them to make stuff up. Then they all turn against us. Like Israel has to know this makes everyone fight them. Why do they want this? It's like a midget.
I can answer that. They are operating the same as they always have. They've operated this way. Their way they aggressively try to take land, the way they just do whatever the fuck they want. That is just ingrained in their culture. They've done it for decades, and it's worked for decades. It's not until just the recent Gaza thing that public opinion has really turned against Israel, and that is because the deep state has lost control of media. They've done horrible things in Gaza before, but this time around, people are finding out. And it's turning public opinion against them. And they're now in a world where when they do horrible things, the world finds out and starts hating them. And it just happened in a few years, this changing dynamic, where they can't hide the truth anymore. And so you have an entire establishment in Israel that's operated this way for decades and decades. Then they're just not going to change. They have their patterns, and they're going to try, like you see new attempts to censor social media. That is rather than adapting to the new world where they can't just go in and seize land without making everyone hate them, they're going to try to restrict social media, but that's going to fail. It's happening because Alex Jones is asking, why are they behaving this way? They've always behaved this way. There's no change there. What's changed is the media landscape in the world, and the ability to cover it up is gone.
It goes in a bar and starts a fight with Mike Tyson.
They have a level of self-preservation that's on a delusional / crazy level, and they will do whatever they need to do. I mean, this is why their intelligence services are so good. As much as
No, they'll do anything. But if I'm in self-preservation, I want to be nice, be strong if I need to, walk softly, carry a big stick, not go around and start fights with everybody. That doesn't sound smart.
But that's what they've done. They in Libya and all these other places, in Syria, funding ISIS, and they have aggressively meddled in the affairs of other countries for decades. It's only now it's becoming known. Like, people still, the left is outraged about Gaza, but realistically, they should be just as outraged about what ISIS did, what Mossad did through ISIS in Syria, the genocide of Christians there. But the media still had its influence back then, and so there wasn't widespread anger about it.
They're crazy. They're insane. And this is what happens when you say,
well, Kiriakou talks about they would go into CIA people's houses that were just doing linguistic stuff and kill their dog, cut its tail off,
rearrange the furniture,
and shit everywhere. And it's like, why? Like,
just to let them know. Like,
said, I've been told this, but not just by Kiriakou. Everybody else, only they do it.
Yeah.
Like, what? I mean, somebody came and broke in my house and shit all over the place. I'm fucking coming after you.
Yeah.
Like, you think that intimidates me? I don't get this, man.
They're one of the worst for counterintelligence as well. Anyone that's
But the point is, why has it been working?
Why has it been working?
So far, it has.
Oh,
because I don't think you win friends and influence people by shitting on people and killing their dogs.
Blackmail.
It worked. Is that it's very effective. If they go in and do this, then no one ever finds out about it. And people like people who have had to go to the media, and the media doesn't report on it, and you realize the entire media is against you, and it has huge puts huge pressure on you. You realize you have these guys operating, media won't cover it, and it's a horrible situation. And you realize then you change the way you live or you get fucked.
Oh, it's a
Only thing I can
blackmail.
think of. That's the only thing I could think of is like it's got to be blackmail or something. Because like why else would anyone deal with these guys? It's got to be the blackmail. We know that they.
Well, I've talked to Kiriaki and so many others, and they say, like Steve Pachenik was high level, and he's Jewish. But he said this. He said Mossad does. You name it. It's like if they come to your house, guarantee they're planting a bug. Nobody else does that.
Oh yeah.
They'll visit CIA headquarters with bugs.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why they don't let them. They don't ever meet them at like the actual base. They're one of the worst for counterintelligence by far. They steal our technology all the time.
Whereas the British are all slick and be your friend.
Yeah.
And the Russians too, or the Chinese. But like the Chinese sent a chick to suck your dick.
Yeah.
They're successful. What is up with Israel?
Yeah. They just plant a bug instead. They do honeypots too, but like not as much. Not as much as they used to. I mean, that's how they got Mordecai Vanunu. So.
And I love Jonathan Pollard. He's come out and said America is the enemy. Luke, did you see that? Where he said to Israel, the main enemy of Israel is America?
I did not. No, it doesn't. And but there's probably also a lot of people that want to bring in the third temple and the end times. I think there's also an aspect
Christian
of a lot
Zionist
of high-level
cuckoos.
political leadership.
In fact, aren't they
exactly
the worst?
they want to.
Sorry, I'm gonna shut up. Go ahead. Tell me.
I think there's an aspect of a lot of religious zealots, as it's already believed that the red heifer was already sacrificed. There's IDF soldiers fighting with the third temple patch. There's a lot of religious leaders and also Christian American leaders that are talking about how we need to do this to fulfill the prophecy. So I think,
that's nonsense, and there's money. People believe that because there's been money in believing that because of the Jewish lobby.
Other than just kind of explaining them as crazy, I think there are people. Yeah.
No, Luke is 100% correct.
Sorry, Luke, go ahead.
They did get the red cows over, and they did actually do a test run. So no, Luke, you're on point with that.
Yeah, they've already burned one.
They have burned one. Yep. And then Adam King was showing off the ashes on Timcast.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Luke.
No, and I think really Iran is also looking at the Middle East and seeing what happened to Gaddafi, Assad, Hussein, and then they're seeing Kim Jong-un just kind of hanging out in North Korea. No one really wants to do anything with him, and they're saying from their perspective. And again, I'm not a fan of the Iranians. I know some Iranians that really hate the regime, that do want to see the regime toppled because they are top down, they are technocratic, they are oppressive. But I think from a perspective,
the Holocaust and the term Nazi has been weaponized, and it's been used by Israel, yes, and for very nefarious purposes.
Where we have to understand them. We have to see what has just transpired in the Middle East, the utter chaos that we have fomented, that we have created, that we have paid for. And I think they're seeing North Korea as a viable option of, okay, if we do what they do, we're going to be left alone, and they're finally going to stop attacking and bombing us. But again, the Iranians are also financing the proxies. They're financing the Houthis. They're financing Hezbollah as well. So it's like a whole clash of civilization moments between the Sunnis and Shiites that has been going on.
I agree. At the center of this, Saudi Arabia has also been sneaking around supporting a lot of this, Myron.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, well, it kind of goes both ways. The Saudi Arabians.
Saudi Arabia also supported ISIS in Syria.
Are like, they're opportunists, right? If they can, because their thing is like, we just need security. And that's another thing too, also, like, No,
I'm not trying to single them out. I'm just saying, we can talk about Israel all day, but there was I know from insiders that Saudi Arabia got pressured by Israel. They told Trump the final thing was when the Crown Prince said, do it, Trump did it.
Yeah, well, and then now also, like now they're saying, well, we have to do a regime change now because they're attacking us and we can't let them be in power, but we're not going to be able to do the regime change. So that's why they're heavily leaning upon the Pakistanis, because the whole reason why that they even went into that pact with Pakistan was because Israel bombed Qatar to try to get the leaders of Hamas during the negotiations. So like, what the hell? They can't even control. The United States cannot.
Pakistan is now saying if they nuke Iran, they're going to nuke it.
Qatar is the one that funded Hamas since 2012, provided them 1.3 billion, not Iran, and that's why the leadership of Hamas was in Qatar.
Israel.
I did hear that too. I heard China also make some threats to Israel, which,
Here's my deal. Israel's a tiny country. As long as there's a greater Israel and attack and just stops, I don't want to blow them up because they're going to do Samson options. So,
Yeah.
but the crazy thing is, like, it's like a banty rooster, a little rooster, but it's mean. It's like a little rooster, like attacking a pit bull. It's like it's attacking and attacking and attacking.
A nuclear armed rooster.
But normally a pit bull would just kill a banty rooster, but this banty rooster has a nuclear bomb tied to it.
Exactly.
And you know, honestly, you know what would solve all this? To solve all these problems in the Middle East? Israel needs to deal with the Palestine question. They keep refusing to do it. They keep trying to kick the ball down the court. They try to.
Now it's not only an issue of that. See these lines right here? Israel has seized a big territory in Syria. In the process of seizing a big territory in Lebanon. So it's not just the Palestine issue anymore. There's the Lebanon and Syria issue too.
The ball on the court, they're exterminating them all.
They're exterminating them. Well, the Abraham Accords, they try to get around it. It's like you got to either do a one-state solution or a two-state solution. A two-state solution doesn't seem viable at this point anymore. The Oslo.
But how dumb was Hamas? Right after the Abraham Accords, they were about, so Netanyahu doubles the payments to them to get more radical. How dumb were their leaders to play into his plan? Like, they didn't know that was a setup on October 7th? They didn't know they were walking into a trap? I mean, how did...
yeah, the Israelis or...
no, Hamas was created by Israel, and then they killed...
Yes, Israel created Hamas. Then it, at various times it funded them. And the latest long stretch where they funded Hamas started in 2012. The cash came from Qatar, but it went through Israeli hands to get to Hamas. So, yeah... Hamas is a tool Netanyahu used to fuck over the Palestinian people. And it delivered October 7th. Perfect excuse to level Gaza.
How dumb are those guys?
So check this out. The guy that planned it, Yahya Sinwar, there's speeches of him admitting, yeah, Israel's gonna have to accept international law and actually follow what they say and not expand the settlements and not destroy the mosque, etc. Or we are going to put them in a compromising situation where we will ostracize them from the world. He admitted this. I watched.
No, I get it. So they sacrificed and pushed them into an existential war.
They attacked knowing that Israel's response would be catastrophic the way that it was.
So they commit suicide bombing, basically.
Essentially.
But on a mass scale.
Because they knew that they would go ahead and do a genocide after. And they knew the response.
Which is why Hamas was not in the interest of the Palestinian people. I mean, you're sacrificing your entire population of Gaza for your goal. You're not law. Yeah, you're doing exactly what Netanyahu wants. If on October 7th they'd taken 1,000 hostages, and with only instead of killed 1,000, it'd be that would have actually been possibly in the interest of the Palestinians. It'd given them leverage. Gaza wouldn't have been leveled to the ground. It'd be a completely different world. But Hamas doesn't exist to fulfill Netanyahu's dream, not the dreams of the Palestinians.
Because that's what all peoples are like. We all double down.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
But it's crazy because I was watching the speech a couple of days ago.
The Jews are doubling down, Trump's doubling down, the Iranians are doubling down, and we're all going to blow each other up.
Pretty much. That's what we're going. If we don't
but
find
is that like anybody?
No, Iran doubling down, that makes perfect sense. They have the leverage in closure of Strait of Hormuz. And they unlike Trump, who has no way of causing regime change in Iran, Iran has a way of achieving regime change in the United States. Create enough economic pain to give Democrats the midterms, they impeach Trump. And then Iran has directly regime changed the United States. They have a path to victory. United States doesn't.
In a real fight, that's what we do.
Yeah, it's I mean,
bad. Unless you're dead, the more somebody attacks you, the meaner you get.
It's bad. And you know who's going to pay for it? The American public. What's a barrel of Brent sitting at right now?
I know skyrocketing.
It was 119 yesterday when I looked. I'll look at it now.
Yeah, it was 120, I think. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It dropped a little today. It was only 110.
That's
still the futures price. It's not the actual price.
Horrible.
Well, he keeps saying
$80 or more is
each
bad.
time when he first said it 5 times ago, it went down $40. Then it was $30, then 20. Every time he tells the lie now, it only goes down a little bit.
Yeah.
So soon, when he says it's going down, it's going to go up. You understand? So he says, "Oh, it's going down."
No, that's not it. I said from the beginning, it's derivatives, that they couldn't allow the price of Brent crude to go up too fast. to because of the derivative position, they had to hold it down for like 2 months. I said we're at that point where it's Wall Street banks have allowed themselves to reposition they've repositioned themselves for higher oil prices, and so now oil prices can be allowed up further. And it's not that it's also Trump's lies have less effect. That's true, but it's also they've reached a point they needed to protect the financial system from collapse, and by preventing oil prices from going up too fast.
He has credibility, but as he loses credibility, it's not gonna work
it doesn't go down as much. And then keep in mind, we released 400 million barrels. The IEA,
strategic defense.
Yeah, so and it's like, and the price is still high, and we released all those barrels. Could you imagine once those barrels are gone?
Well, imagine we're rich here. It's going to kill people in other countries.
Yeah.
In the actuaries by the hundreds of millions, a third of the fertilizer's not there.
And here's the other thing that pisses me
That's
off.
the problem for next year.
You know, we don't even need, we make our own oil. The Strait of Hormuz, we barely get any oil from there. They don't realize that oil is a globalized commodity, and it's like the people are the ones that
it makes the chips in Taiwan. It grows the crops. It's all connected.
All connected.
It is.
Look, Rakowski.
No, I'm pulling up how much crude is. It's 111 right now in the making of this video. And then I have a Business Insider article that I'm pulling up that talked about how the Israelis were planting tiny surveillance devices near the White House. This is all the way in 2019. I don't know if you guys could pull up that Business Insider.
No, they planted them inside the vehicles. Monaco.
Israel is the deep state, the Treasury, U.S. deep states. The intelligence agency it uses against the United States. It doesn't use the CIA in operations against, wiretapping the U.S. president. If CIA did that, there'd be all types of problems. That's why Mossad does that.
Lewinsky was a Mossad operative sucking Clinton's weenie. And you think the president got a good-looking woman? That woman looks like a goddamn cow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and she has her own podcast now, too. It's kind of funny.
I'm sorry, but I wouldn't let that woman carry my trash out.
Oh, man. Imagine you become famous from sucking D. That's wild.
And she's an Israeli operative.
Yeah, she is. She is, 100%.
It came out. It was declassified.
Look at that. It said right there, Israel.
Well, the good news is, here's the problem, though. The good news is Israel's exposed. The bad news is they're digging in. They're going for broke, trying to rope us into a full war because they bet we're going to win. That is crazy.
All right. I think that's enough Alex Jones for today. That was interesting. This will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.